All right, so a while ago, Jamal Adams gave out a list of teams that he'd be willing to play for and potentially sign an extension for. And he listed the Houston Texans, which is a team I found extremely interesting because I think that would give them the best safety duo in the league. But most likely, what the Texans would have to give up would be something along the lines of 2 first-round picks, which I think is an egregious mistake on the Texans' part. But I digress. It would be a grave mistake. Not because Jamal Adams is a bad player, but because they are already low on draft capital, and the Texans would have to replace players in the upcoming draft. Because they're not going to have incredibly huge amount of money after having to pay Deshaun Watson what he's owed, especially after Patrick Mahomes got $500 million over 10 years. Now, it got me thinking, what players in the NFL would I be willing to give up 2 first-round picks for? And I think it makes a lot of sense, the guys I picked, and I'll probably catch flack for leaving people off of this list, but in my opinion, there are only a few positions you give up that kind of draft capital to get. And those positions are quarterback, left tackle, corner, defensive end, and defensive tackle. If it's not one of those positions, I don't think it's worth giving up 2 first-round picks for. Now, first one we're going to start with is quarterbacks. The quarterbacks that I said I'd be willing to give up 2 first-round picks for right now: Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, and Russell Wilson. That's it. There are guys who could potentially join this list. Guys like, if he gets the help, Sam Darnold. If Baker Mayfield bounces back, maybe Baker Mayfield. Guys like that. But for right now, those are the only quarterbacks I would trade 2 firsts for. Because with these guys, outside of Russell Wilson, they're all young. And they're going to be the face of your franchise going forward. Russell Wilson, he's, I believe, 32 years old. He's still going to be in the league a while. It's not like he's going to play 3 years and go away. He'll probably get you another decade of playing, barring some significant injury. Next position we're going to talk about is left tackle. Now, for left tackles, there's only 3 I would trade 2 first-round picks for. The first one, Ronnie Stanley. The guy's young and elite. And when you have those kind of traits that he does, whether it's arm length, good feet, good use of his hands, when you have all of those things at a young age, you're automatically worth it, especially at a position as valuable as left tackle. The second name I put on here, he's a bit older, but it's David Bakhtiari. Now, David Bakhtiari is 28 years old, but he is by far the best pass blocker in the NFL. He times his jump perfect, meaning as soon as the ball is snapped, he's instantly ready. So you don't get that first step to try to get past him. He's already prepared for you. And that, I think, is insanely valuable, even at 28 years old, because most linemen are peaking around 28, so he might even get better. Next up, we got the third player and the last player in the left tackle column, Laremy Tunsil. And a lot of people will look at Laremy Tunsil having a lot of those false starts last year and go, wait, 18 false starts? That's horrible. He shouldn't even be included. Well, Laremy Tunsil is easily a top 5 pass blocker. He's a decent run blocker, not a great one, but being a top 5 pass blocker is kind of what you would like from your left tackle. Laremy Tunsil had all of those, mainly because he was playing for a new team. He didn't get to spend a single preseason game with the Texans before he got moved there. Once he gets used to the Texans organization and the offseason and the camaraderie and knowing his teammates, he's going to be a monster for the Texans. And it was a smart trade they did, giving up those 2 first-rounders for him. All right, next position, corner. Now, corner, I was going to put a couple names, so we'll have these guys as kind of honorable mentions. The honorable mentions, I was going to put Denzel Ward, who's extremely young, physically gifted, and a really good player. But I'm excluding him because, A, he missed a ton of time this last season with the Browns, and then he also hasn't dominated in season. He's had good moments in season, but we haven't seen moments enough for us to go, that guy is a top 10 corner. So he's an honorable mention. Another honorable mention I'm going to put out there is Jair Alexander. Jair Alexander, same thing as Denzel Ward, in my opinion. Physically gifted, has had those wow moments where you look at him and think he could be that guy, but he hasn't shown I'm a top 10 corner yet. Now, getting into the corners that I did pick, the first one, Jalen Ramsey. The Rams gave up 2 firsts to get him, and he was absolutely worth it. He wasn't amazing for the Rams, but he was similar to Laremy Tunsil in that regard, where he didn't get to really spend any time learning about the Rams. He just kind of got thrown into it. Now, Ramsey's only 25 and has been a elite corner since he came into the league. He also can play the slot, safety, pretty much just anywhere in the defensive backfield, and he'll lock up. Now, Jalen Ramsey, he'll need to bounce back a little bit, but I think the Rams are going to use him a lot better than the Jags did. So I think he can do it. Next up on the list, Tre'Davious White. Now, Tre'Davious White, similar to Jalen Ramsey, 25 years old, long physical, good press man corner. But Tre'Davious White is not coming off of a rough season. Tre'Davious White is coming off a season where he was the best player on the best defense in the NFL, a defense that carried the Buffalo Bills to the playoffs. They lost to the Texans in embarrassing fashion, but regardless, that defense almost won them a playoff game and carried them into the playoffs. Next up on the list, Marshon Lattimore. Marshon Lattimore, 24 years old, a lot of potential, gonna be commanding big money on the market because he has been phenomenal for the Saints. I believe I saw some statistic where it was he hasn't allowed a touchdown reception on him in like 2 years or something like that. Something crazy. But he's my number 3 on this list. And then my last guy, barely sneaking in, is another 24-year-old, Marlin Humphrey. Marlin Humphrey snuck into this spot mainly because he's young. He's been an essential piece in that Baltimore Ravens secondary for a few years now. And then just him being as good as he is made the Ravens such a team to fear last year. Because they had Marcus Peters on one side, pressing people. They had Marlon Humphrey on the other, putting him on the best receiver on the team. And it was hard to do anything against that Ravens secondary, especially when their pass rush is getting there extremely quick. So he's making it in here, but I could understand if he doesn't for other teams. Notable exemption from this list, Stephon Gilmore. The main reason I excluded him is because he's already getting older, and to be honest, I think a lot of his successful production is due to the Patriots scheme. Because the Patriots always seem to have a dominant corner. Remember back when Darrelle Revis was still a top corner? He was with the Patriots. The Patriots had him. He was almost a Super Bowl MVP, and They don't re-sign him. He goes to the Jets, and he looks horrible. Then a couple years later, Malcolm Butler. Malcolm Butler was great for them. Number 1 corner. Now he is, I believe, corner 4, corner 3, if lucky, for the Tennessee Titans. The Patriots make their players great. And I think he's a good player that's just become elite because of what team he plays for. Next up, Aaron Donald and Fletcher Cox. Those are the only defensive tackles in the NFL I believe you should trade 2 first-round picks for. Both are older, but both are just physical freaks of nature, and they get the job done. Defensive end, I actually don't have a single defensive end in the league right now that I would give 2 first-rounders for. There's a few that are close, but they would not get 2 first-rounders out of me. The ones that were close were either of the Bosa brothers, so Nick or Joey Bosa. I think both are great edge rushers, but again, I don't believe they're 2 first-round pick great. Danielle Hunter, I think he's a slept-on edge rusher. Does a lot for those Vikings of the Minnesota variety. Carries the defense a bit because their defense has regressed when their secondary got worse with Xavier Rhodes. And then the last one we got is Myles Garrett. Now, Myles Garrett is excluded mainly because of his antics at the end of last year. It made me questioning him more because he had already missed a few games early in his career due to injury, and then getting suspended like that for a atrocious decision, I think is a major red flag. And if I'm any organization after seeing something like that, I can't give up 2 first-round picks for that. But yeah, no, if you guys like the video, made it this far, anything like that, be sure to like, subscribe, comment. Also, go and check out my best buddy, Mr. Mediocre, on his channel. It's just Mr. Mediocre. Just search it up and you'll find him. You can also go and check out the Broad Entertainment podcast. That's the podcast that me and Mr. Mediocre do. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.